Hey everybody. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes today to discuss with you the importance of tempo, and also just to make sure that everybody understands kind of how it works and how to read it, because without this very important function of your exercises, you're going to miss out on very important stimulus that we're trying to adhere to for your actual goals. So one of the most common tempos you'll see, mostly because it's a very good tempo for beginners, new exercises, things like that, is at 3010. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, and you should, this is the number sequence that you see after the name of the exercise is given. So for example, back squat at 3010. Just very important that you don't gloss over that and say, yeah, it's just tempo, it's these numbers, I don't really care, I'll just do the exercises. If that's the case, talk to me, we can kind of discuss that on an individual level, but you really want to pay attention to it. So we should first discuss exactly how to read it, and then some of the reasons on why it's important. And there's a couple of areas of confusion that people still come to me with. I just want to make sure that I can clear that up for everybody. So the first number is always going to dictate what we call the lowering phase of the exercise. So no matter what exercise it is, you're going to start you're not going to start, but no matter what exercise it is, the first number always means the lowering phase. So, for example, in a bicep curl, this is when you're lowering the weight down. If it's a squat, this is when you're squatting down. If it's a press, it's when you're lowering the weight back down. So it's always the lowering phase, that first number. This second number, in this case 0, represents a pause at the lowering phase. So if it's a bicep curl and I've got a 3-second lowering phase, 1, 2, 3, this is asking for me not to pause at all. So I'm going to come right back up. And what is that third number? Well, as you guessed it, that is the lifting phase, or kind of the work phase of whatever exercise you're doing. So in the bicep curl, it's come back up in 1 second. So what do we have so far? 3-second lowering, 1, 2, 3, 0-second pause, come back up in 1 second. And then of course, that fourth number there represents the pause at the top of the working phase. So this is asking me not to rest at all during kind of those opportunities to be isometric in the movement. So at the full extension, full flexion, we're not looking for a pause there. Sometimes we will. So anyway, what this looks like is 3010. But when you do a bicep curl, you don't start by lowering it. You actually start by doing the lifting part. But we know that that third number always represents the lifting phase of the exercise. So you kind of have to ask yourself with each exercise, okay, does this exercise start with me going down, or does it start with me going up? And the answer to that question is going to help you understand where you start to read the tempo. So if it's a bicep curl, I think, what do I do first? Do I lift it or do I lower it first? Well, you lift it first. So you're going to look at the number that represents lifting, which is always the third number in the sequence. So for this bicep curl, I've got 1 second lift, 0-second pause, 1, 2, 3 lower, 0-second pause, and then back up. Okay, so 1 lifting phase, 0 pause at the top of the lifting phase, 3-second descent, and a 0-second pause at the end of the lowering phase. So what about a movement that starts with the lowering phase? Well, that's a squat, basically, okay? So you've got squatting that does that. You've got basically any kind of single leg work where your body's going to go down first is essentially going to be that. So in the squat, it's 1, 2, 3, 0-second pause, stand up in 1, 0 seconds, then you're back down 1, 2, 3 for your subsequent repetitions. So hopefully that makes some sense to you. Now, why is it important? Well, for a number of reasons, really. The first and foremost is safety, especially on the lowering phase of exercise. Now, it's very easy for people to just kind of drop themselves down into a squat or drop themselves down into a pull-up. But what's more difficult, but better for strength gains, potentially, is to be able to control the lowering phase, basically, of your exercise. If you can demonstrate that strength and that control, you will get stronger. And it also grooves better neural connections for, basically programming your brain to understand and do movement better. So basically just control, if that makes sense. So safety. And then also in some scenarios, we might want to work on a weak component of the movement, or target an area that we really want to hammer home. For example, I might ask you to have a hold at the top of a glute bridge to really squeeze your butt for like 5 seconds. Now, in this case, I'm asking you to hold the top of a bridge position for 5 whole seconds. Imagine if I just gave you that exercise and you had no context for tempo, you might get an entirely different stimulus out of that workout that I didn't plan for you to do. So that's why it's really important that you read and understand that. So there's the issue of safety. There's the issue of there might be a piece of the movement that we want to focus on more than the other. And then, of course, spending more time under tension, or spending more time doing one repetition is really good for improving lean body mass as far as building muscle tissue. Okay, so the muscles are going to like to be under tension if the goal is to improve the way that your body looks. Okay, as opposed to doing a couple reps really quickly and then that's kind of it. We want to stay time under tension, typically between 40 plus seconds, okay, into a minute or more. So that is another very important reason why we want to focus on tempo. So again, I can't stress it enough. Make sure that you know and understand your tempo. And the other thing that you want to kind of consider is it can be annoying to count while you're doing reps, but if you get a feel for the groove and the rhythm of the movement, it won't take more than a few reps for you to have to stop counting and just understand, here's how this tempo feels. So it can be daunting to look like, wow, I got to count 4 different times for each piece of the movement. It's not really like that. It just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit more focus. So this is why our programming is a little bit higher order than everybody else's, because people like to miss out on tempo. Again, I could give you 5 back squats without a tempo, and you could do those back squats in 5 seconds. But if I ask you to do 5 back squats with a tempo of a 5-second descent, and it takes you a minute to do those 5 back squats, those are 2 different workouts. Those are 2 different exercises, basically. So I hope that kind of illustrates the importance of tempo, time under tension, and the reasons therein for why that is. So anyway, next time you look at your programming, start to realize maybe how much time under tension, have some fun with it. How much time are you actually spending doing a particular lift? And if you have any questions about why or what the purpose of that is, I'm really happy to kind of go down the rabbit hole with you a little bit on it. Anyway, thanks for paying attention, and see you next time.